Hello students, welcome to a new session, and today we'll be discussing two topics: levels of decision making and stages in buying process from consumer behavior. Before getting to this topic in detail, let's see the basic terms first. So, let's first of all see who a consumer is. Consumer is a broad term, and any person who uses a product or services or deals with it can be termed as a consumer. Next, let's see what is the difference between a consumer and a buyer. A consumer is an ultimate buyer, whereas the term buyer is a broader term than consumer. We can divide buyer into two major categories: consumer and industrial buyer. Consumer are those who buys for their personal consumption, and industrial buyers are those who buys things for manufacturing other products or for reselling or for use in the running of his enterprise. Now let's see the difference between consumer and customer. Often we use these two terms interchangeably, but there exists some difference between these two terms. So first of all, let's see about the customer. A buyer or consumer becomes a customer when he or she buys or consumes a product or service. They are the end users. On the other hand, customer refers to the purchaser of a product or service. They may or may not be the ultimate consumer. Now let's see the definition of consumer behavior given by Philip Kotler. According to Philip Kotler, consumer behavior studies how individuals, groups and organizations select, buy, use and dispose of goods and services or ideas or experiences to satisfy their needs and desires. Now let's see different levels of decision making. The consumer's decision is not the end point, but rather the beginning point of a consumption process. In general terms, a consumer decision is a selection of an option from two or more alternative choices. The different degree of consumer decision making mainly depends on the unit cost of the product, involvement level of consumer, etc. The decision making process can be broadly divided into high involvement decision making and low involvement decision making. High involvement decision making occurs when the involvement of people is high in buying decision, whereas low involvement occurs when the purchases doesn't have much significance to a consumer. For example, purchase of pencils, toothbrushes, etc. Now let's see various levels of decision making. First of all, we will see extensive consumer decision making. Extensive consumer decision making involves high level of purchase involvement. Consumer needs a great deal of information about specific brands, and it occurs when the unit cost of the product is high. And the second level of decision making is limited consumer decision making. Limited consumer decision making doesn't require a high level of purchase involvement. It exists between extensive decision making and habitual decision making. The consumers have already established the basic criteria for evaluating the products or various brands. Example, decision regarding the purchase of soaps, washing powder, etc. And the last level of decision making is habitual consumer decision making. Habitual consumer decision making is also known as routinized response behavior, and it involves no decision making at all. Usually, consumer buys the preferred brand. At this level, the consumers have already experienced the product. Next, we will see various steps or stages in the buying process. Mainly, there are 5 steps in buying process, and they are needs awareness, information search, evaluating alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase reaction. So, the first step in the buying process is need recognition. A purchase cannot take place without the recognition of the need. The need may have been triggered by internal stimuli such as hunger or thirst, or external stimuli such as advertising or word of mouth. The second stage in the buying process is information search. After recognizing a need, the prospective consumer may seek information to help identify and evaluate alternative products or services. and the information may come from many sources such as family and friends, search engines, personal observation, product samples, etc. The next stage is the evaluation of alternatives. After information has been collected, we have to evaluate the various alternatives before us. And the evaluation criteria may vary from consumer to consumer and from purchase to purchase, just as the needs and information sources vary. Product characteristics, brand images, convenience, concessions, etc. are the mainly used criteria for evaluating alternatives. The next and the most important stage in the buying process is the purchase decision. After necessary information has been collected and evaluation has been made, we have to select the best alternative. So, after much searching and evaluation, consumers at some point has to decide whether they are going to buy or not. And the last stage is the post-purchase reaction. This post-purchase experience may be a set of positive or negative feelings. Positive feelings may result in repeated purchase, while negative feelings create anxiety and doubts. Consumer decision process helps in understanding the complex relationship between variables influencing a consumer. It also helps in future development of theories related to consumer behavior, and it also provides a framework for further research on consumer behavior. So in today's session, we discussed the levels of decision making and various stages in the buying process. I hope you have understood the various concepts we discussed. So on this note, I conclude this session. Thank you.